This May 1st, the world celebrates International Workers' Day in commemoration of the world labor movement as well as the eternal struggle for their cause and rights. Citizens' Revolution Movement of Ecuador denounces the obstruction of a new appeal against the results of the elections of April 13th. Qatar denounced before the UN Stop Court that Israel has created a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, people rally on Thursday to mark International Workers' Day and to demand the release of migrants currently kidnapped in El Salvador. This way, thousands marched in several states of the nation together with the representatives of the national government. Demonstrators expressed their rejection to the unilateral coercive measures imposed by the government of the United States and its kidnapping campaign carried out in alliance with the government of El Salvador. In this context, Venezuelans took to the streets to demand the return of 2-year-old Michaelis Espinosa, illegally kidnapped in the U.S. after the deportation of her parents. And we stay in Venezuela. We are now going live with our correspondent Bruno Falsi. Hello, Brunos. Tell us how are demonstrations developing in the Venezuelan capital? Bruno, can you hear me? It seems that there is too much noise in the environment.
Hello, we are here in Caracas in the International Labor Day, where an important manifestation is happening. Hundreds of thousands of people are reuniting, getting here in Petare to support the revolution, to support the democracy, participative of Venezuela, and manifestate against the prison of a little girl of 2 years old. They are keeping prison kidnapped in United States and separate by her family. Her mother was sent back to Caracas, to Venezuela, and her father was sent back to the prison of Bukele in El Salvador. As you can see behind me, a lot of people is arriving here to wait to listen the leaderships of the revolution and make a public denounce, an international denounce about this little kid and Michaelis Espinosa and 230 people, Venezuelan people, who are keeping in prison of Bukele in El Salvador without accusation, without right to defend themselves. Another important thing that announced Maduro today is the salary augmentation. As every year happens in Caracas, the salary is increased in the Labor Day. And today, now the salary have increased to $150. And this more the social programs that the revolution help the people, like the housing program, the transport program, and many other programs like light. They help paying the light, the water, and every kind of things that the labor need, as food too. There are distribution program of food. So this show how the revolution is suppressing the blockade of United States, another attack against the revolution, right? And the illegal blockade. So we keep here accompanying the people, the working class, as they are crying for the world to listen them, to release the little girl who is kidnapped in the United States and stop the blockade against Venezuela and let the people, like you are seeing here, live in peace, live in happy with their family together, reunited again. Now we go back to La Habana, to the studios, and keep with us in teleSUR.
Thank you, Bruno, for the latest information. We're going to continue following up all these rallies that are taking place all over the country as workers are working, and they're also denouncing the illegal sanctions, as you were saying, and the kidnapping of Venezuelans in El Salvador and the U.S. Let's continue with our news in terms of these Labor May 1st demonstrations around the world, because also thousands of Cubans took to the streets nationwide on May 1st to celebrate International Workers' Day. Celebrations began the traditional annual parade at the Revolution Square in Havana, where workers from all sectors of society marched in defense of the revolution's achievements in the face of the U.S. blockade and unilateral sanctions. The event was headed by Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel and had the presence of historical revolutionary leader Raúl Castro. Over 1,000 delegates from 30 countries marched alongside Cubans to reinforce the nation's commitment to solidarity and cooperation. And in the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil, Workers' Day is being celebrated with a demonstration promoted by the unions as is tradition on May 1st, with special emphasis on the reduction of the working day 6 for 1 without salary reduction. Activities will be held on the Paulista Avenue and in São Bernardo do Campo. In addition to income tax exemption, workers are demanding wage equality between men and women and a dignified retirement, together with public policies that guarantee greater access to health and job security. Meanwhile, in Greece, citizens also mobilized to defend the struggles of the sector. They marched in several cities of the country to accompany and join the call of the trade union organizations and worker centers. Workers continue to demand, among other things, public policies that guarantee better working conditions in the face of the real estate crisis. Meanwhile, in France, the police repressed protesters mobilizing for International Workers' Day in Paris. Thousands were attending the rallies and demonstrations demanding from the Macron government stronger protections for workers, higher wages, and greater equality. The main workers' unions in France also marched in rejection of the advances of the far right and to criticize Trump's measures. Labor Day demonstrations happened against a backdrop of political instability in the country, where a parliamentary vote ousted the previous government in December, leaving the nation without a functioning government for weeks. The government of Honduras saluted the workers on their day and offered a few words about the growth the country has experienced at the regional level. On the occasion of the International Workers' Day, the President of the nation, Xiomara Castro, emphasized the importance of the participation of the working class for the development of the country. The President manifested the demands that the national government has made during her leadership in the country at the level of all sectors of the workers of the Honduran society. Castro emphasized the cancellation of the debt of the public sector workers and reaffirmed their importance for the continuity of the socialist revolution.
To you, men and women, workers of my homeland, who day by day strive to do a better labor in fields, factories, classrooms, hospitals, streets, I say to you, your effort is not invisible. Workers, your struggle is what sustains this country.
You now have a first break coming up. We're going to be right back. Welcome back. Citizens Revolution Movement of Ecuador denounces the obstruction of a new appeal against the results of the elections of April 13th. The attorney, Francisco Estrellas, denounced that the recourse of challenge was filed at the offices of the National Electoral Council on the night of this Wednesday, April 30th, at 23:06 local time. However, he pointed out that the officials finished counting the minutes at 2:30 a.m. this Thursday, and at that time the receipt of the document was filed. This new claim is added to others already rejected by the plenary of the National Electoral Council, which declared the winner of the presidential elections to the current President Daniel Noboa of the National Democratic Action Movement. In Haiti, the United Nations Integrated Office presented a balance sheet on the situation in the country where in just 3 months, violence has claimed more than 1,600 lives. The report confirms that 1,617 people died in the context of criminal groups' violence. Of these deaths, at least 85 are extrajudicial executions carried out by the forces of law and order. The study reviews the actions of criminal groups, self-defense groups, and law enforcement agents. In addition to the death, 580 people have been injured. In this context, one of the most devastating data is related to children. 35 children have died in criminal group attacks. 333 have been forced to join the groups, and 96% of the surviving minors confirm having suffered sexual attacks. And Haiti's Minister of Economy and Finance, Alfred Metellus, said this Wednesday that criminal groups obtain between $60 and $100 million a year from activities related to border trade with the Dominican Republic. The official explained that the irregular trafficking of containers through border crossings such as Malpass allows local gang leaders to charge up to $2,000 per unit. He also denounced that custom controls are very weak and that the trafficking of arms, ammunition, and even weapons of war are not controlled. In the same context, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Dominican Republic announced that the armed Haitian groups have taken control of the Haitian community of Mirabelais, where the building of the Dominican consulate in that area was located. And on Wednesday, the U.S. Senate rejected a bipartisan bill to repeal President Donald Trump's tariffs. After a 49-49 deadlock on the resolution, Vice President J.D. Vance intervened, casting a decisive vote to maintain President Donald Trump's trade policies. Despite bipartisan support from Senators Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski, along with the Democrats, the resolution failed to secure the necessary votes for adoption, largely due to the absence of Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, who was unwell. All the while, Trump has remained resolute in his tariff stance, asserting his readiness to veto any such resolution in defense of his trade policies. And the United States government imposes new sanctions on 7 entities for trading in Iranian oil. In the midst of the negotiations on the nuclear agreement, Washington announces these illegal and illegitimate measures against 7 entities related to the trade of Iranian oil products. All this is part of the U.S. strategy to put pressure on Tehran in the middle of the talks. The State Department has announced that the sanctions target 4 sellers and 1 buyer of Iranian petrochemical products, as well as a maritime management company accused of managing Iran's energy supply chain. And the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum informed about the agreement to improve the trade balance between Mexico and the United States, confirming a call she had with Donald Trump. The heads of state informed that the Secretaries of Finance and Treasury, as well as of Economy and Trade of both countries, will continue working on alternatives to improve trade balance and advancing pending issues for mutual benefit. In this regard, Sheinbaum described the agreement as a good sign to achieve better trade. The Mexican government stressed that Trump's goal is to reduce the U.S. trade deficit with the Latin American country and increase imports from the U.S. economy. We now have our second and final short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on our world's most recent events. Final break. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Qatar denounced before the UN's top court that Israel has created a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. The fourth day of the ICJ hearings on Israel's obligations to the occupied Palestinian territories, Qatar's ambassador to the Netherlands, Bulak al-Qahtani, stressed that rather than ending its illegal presence in the occupied Palestinian territory, Israel has continued its genocidal war against the Palestinian people and increased settlement efforts in the occupied West Bank. Al-Qahtani pointed to Israel's blockade on aid shipments, its attack on the UN agency UNRWA, and its cut to basic services in the enclave as key elements that violate its obligations under international law. And the General Secretary of the Palestinian General Federation of Trade Unions, Shahar Saad, has denounced that Israel is waging a systematic war against workers in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. In a statement on the occasion of International Workers' Day, Saad revealed that more than 500,000 Palestinians are unemployed since the beginning of the Israeli aggression in October 2023. Tens of thousands have been deprived of their wages and thousands of workers have been arrested and subjected to abuse and torture. He also deplored the lack of social protection for Palestinian workers and called on the international community to intervene immediately to remedy the situation and contribute to the respect of the human rights of the Palestinian people. And in Israel, wildfires have been raging on Jerusalem hills as of Wednesday. So far, authorities evacuated surrounding areas, closed Jerusalem-Tel Aviv road, while firefighters alongside the army have been trying to control the huge blazes. Experts noted the fires may worsen due to the upcoming strong winds. Meanwhile, officials on fault the blazes broke out close to Mesilat Zion and Beit Shemesh at around 9:30 a.m., spreading fast. In this context, the head of the Fire Association, Dov Ghanem, ensured he had proposed Black Hawk helicopters to get ready for these contingencies, but the government reacted by cutting their funding by $60 million. Currently, 12 firefighters reportedly had light injuries, and some 18 people were admitted to healthcare centers, including 2 pregnant women and 2 children, mostly due to smoke inhalation and burns. And New Zealand's weather agency Met Service reported service disruptions across the country on Thursday as a result of torrential rains with severe winds gusting up to 150 kilometers per hour. The weather agency issued a red alert for high winds south of the capital city of Wellington, prompting the closure of schools and flight cancellations. The howling gales, the strongest in over a decade, have damaged roofs and downed trees, while massive waves pound the city capital's coastline, dumping debris on roads and making driving dangerous. New Zealand's Fire and Emergency Agency said it had developed units to 93 minor storm-related events and referred a further 66 to other entities. Authorities are urging residents to stay home and away from doors and windows. In other topics, the Speaker of the Kenyan Parliament, Moses Masika Wetangula, confirmed Wednesday the assassination of Charles Ongondo, lawmaker of the lower house in Nairobi capital. In this context, Wetangula regretted Ongondo's loss. Likewise, the leader assured that the murdered legislator had received threats to life, but he did not provide any further details. Meanwhile, security forces informed that the crime occurred at 7:30 p.m. local time and that witnesses had seen the perpetrator on a motorcycle. In view of the wave of violence, the legislature demanded authorities to open a fast and transparent investigation to bring all those involved to justice. On April 29th, the College for Training in the Arts and Crafts of Restoration in Cuba and the Caribbean was inaugurated in Havana. The center, designed by the late Cuban historian Eusebio Leal, is located in restored areas of the former Santa Clara Convent and aims to be a multifunctional space that offers training in the preservation of cultural heritage. The inauguration included speeches by various personalities who highlighted the social and economic importance of the new School for Cultural Development in Latin America. In addition, the school will also focus on training experts in the recovery of movable property and will offer workshops for children and young people. And Mexico City celebrated the Night of the Museums on the occasion of the commemoration of the Day of the Children. The capital's Secretary of Culture announced that as part of this initiative, several museums will offer a series of activities aimed at children, including workshops, guided tours, literary talks, and special screenings. Among the galleries that will have an active program are the National Art Museum, the Diego Rivera Mural Museum, the Palace of Fine Arts, the National Museums of Prints and Modern Art, and the Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo Studio. Some of the activities will also include an exhibition of explanatory murals and musical presentations. At this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.